The emergency alarm screamed through the medical station like a dying animal. Red lights flashed in the white corridors as doctors and nurses ran toward the docking bay. Dr. Tae-ho Kim dropped his coffee cup and joined the crowd, rushing through. The hall's Tae-ho was new to the Harmony's Edge medical station. Only 3 months ago, he had been working in a small hospital on Earth. Now he was floating in space, working with the smartest alien doctors in the galaxy. It still felt like a dream. The docking bay doors opened with a loud hiss. What came through made everyone step back in fear. It was huge. The creature stood over 9 feet tall, covered in dark scales that looked like armor. Its arms were thick as tree trunks, and its claws could tear through metal. Blood dripped from deep wounds across its chest and left arm. The creature's yellow eyes looked around the room, searching for help. Vorthak? Someone whispered behind Tae-ho. He had heard that name before. The Vorthak were the most feared predators in the galaxy. They were born killers who hunted other species for sport. Every child in the galaxy knew to run when they saw one, but this one was not hunting. It was dying. The creature fell to one knee, breathing hard. More blood pooled on the floor beneath it. Its massive chest rose and fell like a broken machine. When it tried to speak, only a wet growling sound came out. Dr. Veltar stepped forward. She was a Lunari, one of the most beautiful species in the galaxy. Her skin glowed with soft blue light, and her movements were smooth like water. The Lunari were known for their wisdom and peace. They had not fought a war in over 1,000 years. What do you want here? Dr. Veltar asked. Her voice was calm but cold. The Vorthak warrior lifted his massive head. Help, he said in broken galactic standard. Need. Doctor. Dr. Quindle moved to stand beside Dr. Veltar. He was a Zephyrian, made of living crystal that sparkled in the light. Zephyrians were famous for their logic and perfect thinking. They never made mistakes because they never let emotions cloud their judgment. This is a medical station, Dr. Quindle said. His voice sounded like wind chimes. We treat the sick and injured. We do not help killers. The Vorthak tried to stand but fell forward instead. His blood was spreading across the clean white floor. Please, he whispered. I am Daesung. I need . We know what you are, Dr. Veltar cut him off. Your kind has destroyed peaceful worlds. You hunt innocent beings for pleasure. You live only to kill. Other alien doctors gathered around. There were Aquarians with their fish-like faces, crystalline beings that looked like walking gems, and fuzzy burrowers who usually stayed underground. All of them stared at the dying Vorthak with the same cold expression. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a human doctor who had been on the station for 5 years, pushed through the crowd. She was small and thin, with gray hair and kind eyes. Look at his wounds, she said quietly. He needs surgery right now or he will die. Good, said Dr. Veltar. The galaxy will be safer. But we are doctors, Dr. Tanaka argued. We took an oath to save lives. Dr. Quindle's crystal body flashed with angry red light. We took an oath to do no harm. Saving this creature would harm the greater galactic community. How many innocent beings has this predator killed? How many more will it kill if we save it? The Vorthak warrior named Daesung was getting weaker. His breathing was shallow and fast. His yellow eyes were starting to close. Blood continued to flow from his wounds. We must vote, Dr. Veltar announced. All in favor of providing medical treatment to this Vorthak warrior? 3 hands went up. Dr. Tanaka raised hers first. 2 other human doctors followed. That was all opposed? 27 hands, claws, and tentacles rose into the air. The alien doctors had made their choice. The decision is clear, Dr. Quindle said. This creature will receive no medical treatment. Security will escort it back to its ship. He cannot fly in this condition, Dr. Tanaka protested. Sending him away is the same as killing him. Then let him die, Dr. Veltar said simply. It is not our responsibility to save those who destroy others. Two security guards, both large burrowers with thick fur and strong arms, approached the fallen Vorthak. They lifted him carefully, trying not to make his wounds worse. Dae-sung's head hung down, and his breathing was very weak. As they carried him toward the door, his yellow eyes opened one last time. They found Tae-ho in the crowd. For just a moment, the two beings looked at each other. The Vorthak's eyes were not filled with anger or hate. They were filled with pain and something else. Something that looked like sadness. Then the doors closed. And he was gone. The other doctors began to walk away, returning to their normal duties. Some talked quietly about the excitement. Others seemed to have already forgotten what happened. For them, it was just another day at the medical station, but Tae-ho stood frozen in the same spot. He could not get the image out of his mind. The way the Vorthak had looked at him, the way he had said, "Please," the way his blood had pooled on the white floor. "Kim," Dr. Veltar called to him, "are you coming? We have patients to see." Tae-ho nodded and followed the other doctors out of the docking bay. But as he walked through the corridors, he could hear something that made his skin crawl. It was very quiet, but it was there, the sound of labored breathing, echoing through the station's air vents. Somewhere in the docking bay, Dae-sung was still alive, still fighting, still hoping someone would help him. Tae-ho tried to focus on his work, but the sound followed him everywhere he went. 3 hours had passed since the Vorthak was turned away. Tae-ho sat in the station's main cafeteria, staring at his untouched lunch. The sound of that creature's breathing still echoed in his ears. Other doctors ate and talked around him, but their voices seemed far away. "You look terrible," said Dr. So-young Park as she sat down across from him. She was a neurologist from Seoul, one of the few humans on the station. Her black hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her dark eyes showed concern. "I'm fine." Tae-ho. "Lead, no, you are not," So-young said. "You have been sitting here for 20 minutes without eating. What is wrong?" Before Tae-ho could answer, Dr. Jae-won Lee joined them at the table. He was a trauma specialist from Besan, tall and broad-shouldered, with a quick smile. But today he was not smiling. "Did you hear?" Jae-won asked in a low voice. "The Vorthak is still alive. Security reports say he is lying in his ship, barely breathing." So-young picked at her salad. "Maybe that is for the best. My grandmother always said that some creatures are born evil. The Vorthak destroyed her home planet when she was young. But we are doctors," Tae-ho said quietly. "We are supposed to save lives, not choose which ones are worth saving." Jae-won leaned forward. "The alien doctors have a point, though. How many beings has that creature killed? How many families has he destroyed? If we save him, we might be helping him kill more innocent people." "We do not know what he has done," Tae-ho argued. "We only know what his species is known for. But individuals can be different from their species." So-young shook her head. "The Vorthak are not like us, Tae-ho. They do not think the way we do. They are born predators. It is in their nature to hunt and kill." "Then why did he come here alone?" Tae-ho asked. Why did he ask for help instead of trying to take what he wanted by force? The question hung in the air between them. Neither So-young nor Jae-won had an answer. After lunch, Tae-ho could not focus on his work. He made mistakes during simple procedures. His hands shook when he held his surgical tools. Dr. Veltar noticed and sent him to his quarters early. "Rest," she said in her musical voice. "You are not thinking clearly today." In his small room, Tae-ho sat at his desk and opened his computer. He searched for information about the Vorthak species. Most of the files were military reports about their attacks on peaceful worlds. Stories of destroyed cities and missing colonists filled the screen, but as he dug deeper, he found other information. Academic papers about Vorthak culture, anthropological studies of their society. The picture they painted was more complex than the simple born killer image everyone believed. The Vorthak lived by a strict honor code. They valued strength and courage above all else. But they also had concepts of duty and protection. Some human researchers had observed Vorthak warriors defending their own young with fierce devotion. Others had documented cases where Vorthak had shown mercy to defeated enemies who fought with honor. One report caught Taeho's attention. It was written by Dr. Marcus Chun, a human xenobiologist who had lived among the Vorthak for 6 months. He wrote about a Vorthak warrior who had saved a human research team from space pirates. Even though it meant breaking his own clan's isolation rules, the more Taeho read, the more confused he became. Were the Vorthak really the mindless monsters everyone believed them to be? Or were they just different, following their own code of honor that others did not understand? His computer chimed with an incoming message. The sender was Dr. Yunji. Choi, his old mentor from Earth. She was an elderly woman with silver hair and wise eyes who had taught him everything he knew about being a doctor. Taeho, her recorded voice said, I heard about your assignment to the Galactic Medical Station. I am so proud of you. Remember what I always told you, medicine is not about judging who deserves to live. It is about preserving life, period. The moment we start choosing who is worth saving, we stop being doctors and become something else entirely. The message ended, but her words echoed in his mind. Medicine is not about judging who deserves to live. It is about preserving life. Tae-Ho closed his computer and walked to his window. Outside, space stretched endlessly in all directions. Stars twinkled like diamonds against the black void. Somewhere out there, people were living their lives, loving their families, and dreaming of the future. Some of them were human, some were alien, and some were Vorthak. He thought about the creature named Daesung. What had brought him to the medical station? What had wounded him so badly? Was he running from something or toward something? The breathing. Sound came again, carried through the station's air system. It was weaker now, more labored. Daesung was dying slowly, alone in his ship. Taeho made a decision. He left his quarters and walked through the empty corridors toward the station's library. If he was going to understand this situation, he needed more information. The library was quiet and dimly lit. Glowing screens showed databases from across the galaxy. Taeho searched for recent news reports from the Outer Rim sectors, where most Vorthak attacks happened. What he found surprised him. The most recent report was not about a Vorthak attack on innocent civilians. It was about a Vorthak warrior who had defended a medical transport ship from pirates. The warrior had been badly wounded in the fight, but he had saved the ship and its cargo of life-saving medicines. The report did not give the warrior's name, but it described his injuries. Deep claw marks across the chest and left arm. Wounds. That matched exactly what Taeho had seen in the docking bay. Daesung had not come to the station as a predator seeking prey. He had come as a wounded defender, seeking help after saving others. Taeho sat back in his chair, his mind racing. The alien doctors had turned away a hero, not a villain. They had let their prejudice blind them to the truth, but what could he do? He was just one human doctor among dozens of alien physicians. He had no authority to override their decision. If he tried to help Daesung, he would be breaking every rule of the medical station. The breathing sound grew even weaker. Time was running out. Tae-Ho stood up and walked back toward his quarters. But as he passed the corridor that led to the docking bay, he stopped. His feet would not carry him away from the sound of that dying creature. He thought about Dr. Choi's words again. Medicine is not about judging who deserves to live. The corridor to the docking bay was empty. The security guards had gone to their next shift. No one would see him if he went to check on the VO or THAK. No one would know if he tried to help. The station's night cycle had begun. Most of the lights were dimmed and the corridors were empty. Taeho walked quietly through the halls, carrying a medical bag filled with emergency supplies. His heart beat fast as he approached the docking bay. The security door required a medical authorization code. Taeho hesitated for a moment, then entered his access number. The door slid open with a soft hiss. There was no going back now. The docking bay was dark except for a few emergency lights. In the corner, a small Vorthak ship sat silent and still. It was black and angular, built for speed and stealth. A thin trail of blood led from the bay entrance to the ship's open hatch. Taeho followed the blood trail. His footsteps echoed in the empty space. As he got closer to the ship, he could hear the labored breathing more clearly. It was very weak now, barely a whisper. The inside of the Vortex ship was cramped and dark. It smelled of metal and something else, something wild and dangerous. Tae-ho turned on his medical scanner's light and found Dae-sung lying on a narrow bench that served as a bed. The massive warrior looked even bigger in the small space. His dark scales were pale and dry. Blood had soaked through makeshift bandages around his chest and arm. His yellow eyes were closed and his breathing was shallow and irregular. Dae-sung, Tae-ho said quietly. The Vortex eyes opened slowly. They were cloudy with pain and fever. When he saw Tae-ho, confusion crossed his face. You came, Dae-sung whispered in broken galactic standard. I am a doctor, Tae-ho said simply. Let me help you. Tae-ho opened his medical bag and began to examine the wounds. What he saw made his stomach turn. The claw marks were deep and infected. Some had torn through muscle and reached the bone. Without proper treatment, Dae-sung would die within hours. This will hurt, Tae-ho warned as he began to clean the wounds. Dae-sung gritted his teeth but did not make a sound. Even dying, the Vorthic warrior showed no weakness. As Tae-ho worked, he realized how little he knew about Vorthic biology. Their bodies were different from humans in many ways. They had 2 hearts instead of 1. Their blood was thicker and darker. Their bones were denser and stronger. Your species has 2 hearts, Tae-ho said as he worked. Where is the second one? Dae-sung pointed to his lower chest with a trembling claw. Here, but damaged, not working right. Tae-ho used his scanner to look inside Dae-sung's body. The images showed massive internal damage. One heart was barely beating. The other was working too hard to keep him alive. If both hearts failed, nothing could save him. I need to perform surgery, Tae-ho said, but I do not have the right equipment. Here, cannot go to medical bay, Dae-sung said weakly. They turned me away. Then I will bring the equipment here. Tae-ho left the ship and hurried through the corridors. He knew where the portable surgical equipment was stored. It was meant for emergencies when patients could not be moved to the main operating room. The storage room was locked, but Tae-ho's medical code opened it. He gathered everything he thought he might need: a portable surgical table, laser scalpels, blood replacement units, and monitoring equipment. It took 3 trips to carry everything to the docking bay. As he set up the equipment in the ship, Dae-sung watched him with growing amazement. Why? The Vorthic asked. Why help me? Your people, they fear us. Some do, Tae-ho admitted as he calibrated the surgical tools, but fear is not a good reason to let someone die. He began the operation, working carefully in the cramped space. The Vorthic's biology was strange and challenging. Their organs were arranged differently than human organs. Their blood vessels followed unusual paths. Everything Tae-ho had learned about surgery had to be adapted and changed. The first heart was severely damaged. Tae-ho had to repair 3 major tears in the muscle wall. He worked slowly and carefully, using techniques he had learned on Earth, but adapting them for Vorthic anatomy. Halfway through the surgery, the ship's lights flickered. Someone was coming? Dr. Kim? A voice called from outside. Are you in there? It was Dr. So-young Park. She had found him. Tae-ho's hands froze over the open chest cavity. If So-young reported him, his career would be over. He would be expelled from the medical station and sent back to Earth in disgrace. So-young appeared in the ship's doorway, her eyes wide with shock. She stared at the scene before her. Tae-ho performing surgery on a dying Vorthic warrior in the cramped confines of an alien ship. What are you doing? She whispered. What I have to do, Tae-ho replied, not looking up from his work. He was defending a medical transport when he was wounded. He is not a monster, he is a hero. So-young stood in the doorway for a long moment, clearly struggling with what she was seeing. Tae-ho waited for her to call security to report his violation of medical ethics and station rules. Instead, she stepped into the ship and rolled up her sleeves. What do you need me to do? She asked. The second heart, Tae-ho said, relief flooding through him. It is overworked and starting to fail. Can you monitor his vital signs while I work on it? So Young took the medical scanner and began tracking Daesung's life signs. His blood pressure is dropping fast. You need to work quickly. The second. Heart was in even worse condition than the first. It had been working alone for too long, trying to keep Daesung alive. The muscle was strained and beginning to tear under the pressure. I have never seen anything like this, So Young said as she watched Taeho work. How do you know what to do? I do not, Taeho admitted. I am making it up as I go along. But the basic principles are the same. Stop the bleeding, repair the damage, restore function. For the next 2 hours, they worked together in the cramped ship. Taeho repaired both hearts while So Young monitored Daesung's condition and assisted with the surgery. It was the most difficult operation either of them had ever performed. Finally, Taeho made the last suture and stepped back. Both hearts were beating steadily now, pumping blood through Daesung's massive body. The warrior's breathing was deeper and more regular. His color was improving. Will he live? So Young asked. I think so, Taeho said, exhaustion clear in his voice. But he needs rest and recovery time. We should move him to a proper medical bed. We cannot take him to the medical bay, So Young said. The other doctors will find out what we did. Then we will have to hide him somewhere else, Taeho said, until he is strong enough to leave. As they cleaned up the surgical equipment, Daesung's eyes opened. They were clearer now, no longer clouded with pain and fever. He looked at both humans. With something like wonder, You saved me, he said in a stronger voice. We are doctors, Taeho said simply. It is what we do. Not all doctors, Daesung said, thinking of the alien physicians who had turned him away. Only human doctors. Outside the ship, the station's night cycle continued. Soon the day shift would begin and other doctors would start asking questions. Taeho and So Young had broken the most important rule of the medical station. They had defied the collective decision of the galactic medical community, but as they watched Daesung's steady breathing and saw the life returning to his yellow eyes, they knew they had made the right choice. Sometimes being a doctor meant breaking the rules to save a life. The real test would come when the other doctors discovered what they had done. The next morning came too quickly. Taeho and So Young had hidden Daesung in an unused storage room near the docking bay. They had moved him carefully on a medical stretcher, making sure no one saw them. The Vorthek warrior was still weak, but much stronger than before. Taeho was checking on his regular patients when the emergency alarm sounded. This time it was not for a new arrival, it was for him. Dr. Kim, report to the Medical Council chamber immediately, the station's computer announced. Dr. Park, you are also required to attend. Taeho's stomach dropped. Someone had discovered what they had done. As he walked through the corridors, other doctors stared at him with curious expressions. News traveled fast on the space station. The council chamber was a large room with a curved table where the senior doctors sat. Dr. Veltar was in the center, her blue skin glowing with angry light. Dr. Quindle stood beside her, his crystal body flashing red. Around the room, dozens of alien doctors watched with cold eyes. Dr. Kim, Dr. Veltar said as he entered, is it true that you treated the Vorthek warrior against direct orders? There was no point in lying. Yes, Taeho said simply. A wave of shocked whispers went through the room. Some of the alien doctors looked disgusted, others seemed angry. A few appeared curious about what would happen next. Dr. Quindle stepped forward, his crystal body now bright red with rage. You have violated the most basic principles of galactic medicine. You have acted against the collective decision of this medical community. You have endangered the safety of peaceful beings throughout the galaxy. I saved a life, Taeho said quietly. You saved a killer, Dr. Veltar snapped. That creature has probably murdered hundreds of innocent beings. By healing him, you have made their deaths your responsibility. So Young entered the chamber, her face pale but determined. Dr. Kim was not alone, she said. I helped him. If he is guilty, then so am I. The room erupted in angry voices. The alien doctors could not believe that two humans had defied their authority. Some called for immediate expulsion, others demanded criminal charges. "Silence!" Dr. Veltar commanded. The room fell quiet. "This is exactly what we feared when we allowed humans to join our medical community. Your species is too emotional, too primitive. You cannot make the hard decisions that advanced medicine requires." "We can make the right decisions," Teho sighed, his voice growing stronger. "We can choose to save lives instead of judging them." "And what about the lives that creature will take in the future?" Dr. Quindell asked. "What about the families he will destroy? The children he will orphan? Their blood will be on your hands." "You do not know what he will do," Teho argued. "You only know what you think he will do based on prejudice and fear." Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors opened. Two security guards entered, supporting a massive figure between them. It was Daesung, still weak but able to walk. His yellow eyes were alert and focused. "I asked to come," the Vorthic warrior said in his deep voice. "I must speak." "Get that thing out of here," Dr. Veltar commanded. "Let him speak," Teho said. "You owe him that much." Dr. Quindell's crystal body flashed with anger. "We owe him nothing. He is a predator and a killer." "No," Daesung said, his voice growing stronger. "I am a protector." The room fell silent. Even the alien doctor seemed curious about what the Vorthek would say. Daesung stood as tall as he could, his massive frame impressive even in his weakened state. 3 days ago, I was guarding a medical transport ship. It carried medicine to treat the plague on Kepler Station. The ship was attacked by pirates." He paused, breathing heavily from the effort of speaking. "The pirates wanted to steal the medicine and sell it to the highest bidder. Millions of beings would die without that cure. I fought them off, but I was badly wounded." The doctors in the chamber exchanged glances. Some looked skeptical, others seemed interested. "The transport ship was damaged in the fight," Daesung continued. "It could not make the journey to Kepler Station. The captain asked me to memorize the medicine formula and bring it to the nearest medical station. That is why I came here. Double quotes. Dr. Veltar shook her head. "You expect us to believe that a Vorthic warrior was protecting a medical ship? Your kind lives only to hunt and kill." "My kind lives by honor," Daesung replied firmly. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We fight for those who cannot fight. The weak and sick deserve our protection, not our predation." "Lies," Dr. Quindell said. "You are trying to manipulate us with false stories." Daesung reached into his belt pouch. With trembling claws, he pulled out a small data crystal and placed it on the table. "This contains the medicine formula. It also contains the transport ship's log recordings. You can verify my story." Dr. Veltar picked up the crystal with obvious reluctance. She inserted it into a computer terminal. The room's main screen lit up with images from the medical transport ship. The recording showed the attack clearly. Pirates and small fast ships surrounded the larger medical vessel. Laser fire lit up the darkness of space. And there, fighting desperately to protect the transport, was Daesung. The Vorthic warrior moved with incredible speed and skill. He destroyed 3 pirate ships single-handedly. When the pirates tried to board the transport, he fought them in hand-to-hand combat. The wounds he had received matched the injuries Teho had treated. The recording also showed the transport captain, a elderly Aquarian female, thanking Daesung for his sacrifice. She begged him to take the medicine formula to safety, even though it meant he might not survive the journey. When the recording ended, the chamber was completely silent. Every doctor in the room stared at the screen in shock. The evidence was undeniable. Daesung had not come as a predator. He had come as a hero. "The plague on Kepler Station," Dr. Veltar said slowly. "How many beings are infected?" "Over 2 million, Daesung replied. "The death rate is 90% without treatment. They have maybe 5 days before everyone dies." Dr. Quindell's crystal body had turned from red to blue, a sign of confusion and uncertainty. "If this is true, then we have made a terrible mistake." "You made a mistake," Teho said. "You let prejudice blind you to the truth. You were so sure that all Vorthok are evil that you could not see the good in this one. So Young stepped forward. Dr. Kim saved more than just Daesung's life. He saved the lives of 2 million beings on Kepler Station. He did what we all should have done. Dr. Veltar looked at the data crystal, then at Daesung, then at the two human doctors. Her glowing blue skin had dimmed with shame. The formula, she said quietly. We must synthesize the medicine immediately. Every minute we delay, more beings die. I will help, Daesung said. The formula is complex. It requires knowledge of multiple species biology. I studied it carefully during my journey here. Dr. Quindle's crystal body flashed with embarrassment. You would help us, after we turned you away to die? I would help anyone who needs it, Daesung replied. That is what honor means. The chamber erupted in discussion as doctors began organizing the medicine production. But in the middle of the chaos, Dr. Veltar approached Taeho. You were right, she said softly. We were wrong. We let our fear and prejudice cloud our judgment. You saw past his species to the individual beneath. That is what humans do, Taeho said. We see the person, not the stereotype. Perhaps, Dr. Veltar said. That is something the rest of us need to learn. As the doctors rushed to begin producing the plague cure, Taeho felt a deep satisfaction. He had broken the rules, defied authority, and risked his career. But he had also saved millions of lives and opened the minds of beings who had been closed by prejudice. Sometimes, doing the right thing meant breaking the wrong rules. The medical station transformed overnight. What had been a place of cold logic and rigid rules became a center of frantic activity. Every doctor, nurse, and technician worked together to produce the plague medicine. The formula Daesung had brought was more complex than anything they had seen before. Dr. Quindle stood at a computer terminal, his crystal body flashing with different colors as he processed the data. This formula requires components from 7 different species, he announced. Some of these biological compounds have never been combined before. Daesung sat in a medical chair, still recovering but determined to help. His massive claws worked carefully with delicate equipment as he explained the medicine's creation. On my homeworld, we learned to mix different healing plants. This medicine works the same way, but with advanced chemistry. Dr. Veltar watched in amazement as the Vorthok warrior demonstrated techniques that her people had never considered. How do you know so much about medicine? She asked. All Vorthok warriors learn basic healing, Daesung explained. We must be able to treat our wounds in battle. But I studied more than most. My mother was a healer before she became a warrior. This revelation shocked the alien doctors even more. They had always believed that Vorthok society was built only around fighting and killing. The idea that they had healers and medical knowledge challenged everything they thought they knew. Dr. Hyun-woo Nam, another human doctor, joined the group working on the medicine. He had been quiet during the previous day's events, but now he spoke up. On Earth, we have a saying, do not judge a book by its cover. It means you cannot know what someone is like just by looking at them. Dr. Myung Kong, a human biochemist, nodded in agreement. Every species has individuals who are different from the stereotype. We should judge people by their actions, not their appearance. As the hours passed, more and more alien doctors began to see Daesung differently. They watched him work with precision and care. They heard him speak about honor and protection. They saw his dedication to saving the lives of beings he had never met. Dr. Veltar was the first alien doctor to apologize. She approached Daesung during a break in the work and bowed her head in the traditional Lunari gesture of respect. I was wrong about you, she said. I let fear and old prejudices cloud my judgment. You are not the monster I believed you to be. Daesung looked at her with his yellow eyes, which seemed less frightening now and more wise. Your fear was not without reason, he said gently. Some of my people have done terrible things. But we are not all the same, just as all Lunari are. Not the same, Dr. Quindle overheard the conversation. His crystal body turned a soft blue color, the Zephyrian sign of deep thought. We have made a grave error in our thinking, he admitted. We applied the actions of some Vorthak to all Vorthak. This is not logical at all. Within 12 hours, they had produced enough medicine for the first shipment to Kepler Station. Fast ships carried the cure to the dying planet while the medical station continued producing more. Every hour they saved meant hundreds of lives preserved. The news of what had happened spread throughout the galactic medical community. The story of the human doctors who had defied authority to save a Vorthak warrior became famous across the galaxy. More importantly, the story of Daesung's heroism began to change how people viewed his species. 6 months later, the Harmony's Edge medical station looked very different. The sterile, cold atmosphere had been replaced by something warmer and more welcoming. Doctors from dozens of species worked together in ways they never had before. Taeho stood in his new office, looking out at the main medical bay. The nameplate on his door read, Dr. Taeho Kim, Director of Emergency Xenobiology. The new department had been created specifically to handle difficult cases involving species that other doctors might refuse to treat. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Come in, he called. Dr. So-Young Park entered, carrying a datapad. She had been promoted to deputy director and worked closely with Taeho on their most challenging cases. We have a new arrival, she said. A wounded crystalline merchant who was attacked by pirates. The other stations refuse to treat him because they think all crystalline are thieves. And what do we think? Taeho asked with a smile. We think he's a patient who needs medical care, So-Young replied. His past actions do not matter, only his current need for healing. This had become their new philosophy. The department treated any being who needed help, regardless of their species, reputation, or past conflicts. It was a radical approach that had initially caused controversy, but was now gaining support throughout the galaxy. Another knock came at the door. This time it was Daesung, who had become an unofficial ambassador between the Vorthak and the medical community. He was fully healed now, his scales bright and his movements strong. But instead of returning to his warrior duties, he had chosen to stay at the station. The new students have arrived, he announced. 3 young Vorthak who want to become healers instead of warriors. This was perhaps the most remarkable change of all. Inspired by Daesung's example, young Vorthak from across the galaxy were choosing to study medicine instead of warfare. They came to Harmony's Edge to learn from the doctors who had shown that healing was more honorable than hurting. Taeho walked with Daesung and So-Young to the main classroom. Inside, dozens of students from various species sat together. Humans, Lunari, Zephyrians, Aquarians, and now 3 young Vorthak all learning to become doctors. Today we will discuss the new medical oath, Taeho announced to the class. Who can tell me the most important principle? A young Vorthak female raised her clawed hand. Her name was Be'ora, and she was the first of her species to formally study galactic medicine. All life has value, she said in careful galactic standard. We do not judge who deserves to live. Excellent, Taeho said. And what else? A Lunari student answered next. We treat the patient, not the stereotype. We look at the individual, not the species. The discussion continued for an hour, with students from different worlds sharing their perspectives on medicine and healing. It was exactly what Taeho had hoped for when he first came to the station, beings working together to preserve life. After class, Taeho received a message on his computer. It was from Dr. Yoonji Choi, his old mentor on Earth. Her face appeared on the screen, older now, but still wise and kind. Taeho, she said with a proud smile, I have received an invitation to establish a human medical academy at your station. It seems that human approaches to medicine are becoming quite popular in the galaxy. The message continued with details about the new academy. It would teach alien students about human medical philosophy, particularly the emphasis on compassion and individual worth. Dr. Choi would lead a team of Earth's best doctors to the station. As Taeho finished reading the message, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The alien doctors had once turned away a dying warrior because of prejudice and fear. But a human had broken their cold code of logic, choosing compassion over rules. That choice had saved not just one life, but millions. The plague medicine had reached Kepler Station in time. The Vorthak who had been branded as monsters were now recognized as a people capable of honor and healing. And the entire galactic medical community had learned that sometimes the most ethical action required breaking established rules. Dr. Veltar appeared in his doorway, her blue skin glowing with warm light. "The evening shift is starting," she said. "Are you ready for the new emergency procedures training?" Tejo nodded and followed her out. The training was another innovation, teaching doctors to make quick decisions about treatment based on medical need rather than committee decisions. It was faster, more efficient, and most importantly, it saved more lives. As they walked through the corridors, Tejo could hear the sounds of a busy medical station. Doctors discussing cases, students asking questions, patients receiving care. It was the sound of healing happening without prejudice or judgment. The galaxy was learning what humans had always known, that every life had value, regardless of what species it belonged to. And sometimes, the greatest act of healing was simply choosing to care when others chose to look away. The new code was simple: preserve life, question prejudice, and never let fear override compassion. It was a code that any species could follow, but it had taken human hearts to show the way.